رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to today's session. Inshallah, today we're going to go through Inheritance Guide. The Inheritance Guide is a simple illustration of the designated heirs and the amount that they should be inheriting. I've tried to use charts instead of lots of writing in order for you to, inshallah, understand it simply in a simple way. This is a guide, so obviously the detailed account of laws related to inheritance or more details on the heirs and the amount that they inherit, you would need to study this subject further. We do have a fiqh of inheritance at level 3, which does go into far more detail, and inshallah you can download that course from our website as well. So we will start inshallah with the first introduction. So the guide, as I've said, is a basic inheritance guide with the laws of inheritance as a basic illustration. Obviously, as I mentioned, you would need to take a course for complete understanding. There are differences of opinion regarding the inheritance of the paternal grandfather, but we will go with the most authentic or the majority opinion here. There are other details that will help you understand the Agnat relatives. Who are they? And inshallah, we'll go through them. But they are discussed at level 3 in greater depth and detail, inshallah. Certain relatives do block inheritance for others. We will go through that briefly. And inshallah, we will go through all the shares that should be divided according to Sharia. So the following slides illustrate different charts. So I've used charts in order to identify the fractions of inheritance. And there you will, above the chart, you will see the heir that is inheriting that share. So if we look at the first chart, here it says the son gets 2 shares of the female, and the female just gets 1 share. So there, in this chart here, pie chart here, we've got two shares that go to the male, and then the 1 share that uh, is given to the female, inshallah. A daughter can get half if the deceased has no other child. So if there's no other child, no son and no other daughters, and there's only one alone daughter inheriting, then she will get a half. If there are 2 or more daughters, then they will share the estate, 2/3 of it, and that is provided that there's no son. If there is, then obviously they'd share together. One granddaughter from the male line, she gets a half of the estate in the absence of children, so other children. So if a parent is passing away, has died, then has left no other children, and has a granddaughter, then the granddaughter inherits. Normally, a grandchild doesn't inherit by default if there are children there. So if the deceased has his or her own children, then they will be the inheritors. However, in the case where the deceased has no children, then the grandchildren will inherit. But by default, they do not inherit because children block them. Provided that these granddaughters don't have a brother or sister, in that case, their share will decrease. Um, or a cousin. So it could be a son of a paternal uncle, um, a non-existing of descending heir higher in kin. So obviously we're talking about children here. So if there are higher in kin means those that the children, so they take precedence, they're higher in kin because they're related to the deceased directly, whereas the grandchildren come after the children of the deceased. Okay, so in this case, if there is one granddaughter from the male line, then she will get in half. If there are 2 or more granddaughters from the male line, they will share 2/3 of the estate, provided they are 2 or more, and in the absence of son or daughter of the deceased. So again, we're just reiterating the fact that there should be no other child, no child of the deceased, no son nor daughter, in order for a granddaughter or a grandson to inherit. Okay, and there should be absence of a brother male and a paternal cousin. So there should be no brother because then if there are no children, then siblings would stand in as inheritors. One daughter, she gets half along with one more granddaughters. So if there is a case where there's one daughter and one granddaughter, or one or more granddaughter from the male line, so daughter will get the half and the granddaughter will get the sixth. And if there's two, they will share as a remainder of the two-thirds, provided no grandson from the son and no brother from the paternal male cousin. Okay. So no brother, okay, or a paternal male cousin. So here it means basically a biological brother or maybe cousin brother from the paternal side, from the father's side. No, the descendant heir who is higher in level of kingship. So here we're talking about people, the children and siblings of the deceased that would then block the granddaughter's share. Husband gets a half if there are no children or grandchildren from the son. Husband will get a fourth if there are children or grandchildren from the son. Okay, so each share depends on who is alive at that time. This is why it is very difficult to have a written inheritance with you because you don't know who will die when you passed away. This is why you should appoint somebody after your death who can then share the inheritance for you according to Islamic laws. Now, if we look at the wife's share, she does get a fourth if there are no children or grandchildren. So it's similar to the male's share, but this is only if there are children or grandchildren, then the husband gets a fourth. Whereas in the wife's case, she gets a fourth if there are no children, grandchildren from the son. Okay, and if there is more than one wife, then they do share that fourth. One wife, she will get an eighth if the deceased husband has children, and if there are more than one, then they share that one eighth. The father, he will get a sixth if a deceased has a son, okay, so, or a grandson from the son. Father gets a sixth along with the remaining share if deceased has a daughter or a granddaughter from the son. So then that's the share of the father. So he will get, in either case, he will get a sixth, whether the deceased had a son or grandson from the son, or if he had a daughter or a granddaughter. So either case, he gets a sixth. The father does get an undefined share by virtue of agnation, and agnation is basically relatives from the male side if the deceased has no son or grandson, okay, from the male line, inshallah. Um, and that's the father will get that extra undefined share. So anything that's left over, basically. Paternal grandfather gets a sixth if deceased has children. Grandfather takes the place of the deceased father. So if there is no father, then you still have a paternal grandfather that is alive, then he will take place of the father. And he shares the estate with the brothers. And we did say that that was a difference of opinion. So that's the first opinion. Others say the paternal grandfather prevents the deceased brothers from inheriting. So the grandfather will prevent the brothers of the deceased from inheriting. So the siblings will not inherit if the grandfather is there because the grandfather then takes the place of the father. And that's the second opinion. The mother, she gets a third if deceased has no children, male or female, or grandchildren. Or a grandchild from the son line, from the line of the son, or two or more siblings. Okay, so she doesn't have any of the following. She has no children, male or female, no grandchild that is a male, or she has no siblings, two or more. If deceased has left a spouse, for example, a husband or wife, then uh, father and mother, then the mother receives a third of the remainder of the estate. So she gets a third by default. However, if the deceased has left no spouse, has no father or mother, the deceased doesn't have, then the mother receives a third of the remainder of the estate. Okay, so inshallah, we'll move on from that. Mhm. The mother, she will get a sixth if deceased has children from the male line. Sorry, from the male or female, has children, male or female. and a grandchild from the line of the son, okay, and two or more siblings. So if she will her share is the third here, but it decreases if deceased does have children, okay, and a grandchild from the son line, or if the mother has siblings, okay. Sorry, if the deceased has siblings, two or more siblings. Beg your pardon. A full grandmother, meaning not a step grandmother, gets a sixth if deceased has no mother. So the grandmother then steps in for the mother. So the mother, if the mother is alive, she will block the grandmother from inheriting. In this case, if there is no mother, grandmother will just take the place of the mother and she will get a sixth instead of the mother. And if there are two, they will share a sixth. A sister gets a half estate if there are no children and if there are no other sibling, and deceased has no grandchild through the son, through the line of the son, or father or paternal grandfather. So here, the share is half only if the following do not exist: siblings of the deceased, the grandchild through the son, or father or paternal grandfather. Two or more sisters, they will share a two-thirds of the estate if there are two or more, provided there's no brothers, there's no children or grandchildren of the deceased, or a father or a paternal grandfather. Okay, in that case, the two or more sisters, they share two-thirds. The brother, male, has two shares, just like the son. The male brother has the same status as the son. He will have two shares of the female. If there are both brothers and sisters inheriting together in the absence of a father, okay, um, they will share that, okay. So the male has a share of two females if there are both brothers and sisters inheriting together in the absence of father. The paternal half siblings. So now we're going to, now we've done the full siblings, we're going to the half siblings, step siblings. If they are from the father's line, then they will inherit two-thirds or two more. If there are two or more sisters, they share two-thirds. If there are two or more, no brothers, no children, grandchildren of the deceased, or a father, paternal grandfather, paternal half sister only inherits two-thirds as long as no full brother. So a paternal half sister will inherit if there are two or more half sisters, if there are no other brothers or children or grandchildren of the deceased, or a father of the deceased, or a paternal grandfather of the deceased. Paternal half sisters only inherit two-thirds as long as there is no full brother. So no full brother. Paternal half sister from the father with full sister takes a sixth as a remainder of two-thirds. Okay, so she will take or inherit with a full sister, provided there's one full sister inherits the half. So the full sister, she gets half. Now the half sister, she will get a prescribed, so the half who inherits half as a prescribed share, sorry. And if there's more full sisters, they take two-thirds of the share, leaving nothing for the paternal half sister. So paternal half sister will not share if there are two or more. But if there's less than two or more, because we've seen two or more sisters, they share two-thirds of the state, right? So if if there's two or more sisters, they share, or two or more daughters, they will share two-thirds of a state. If paternal half sister does have a brother, then she and the brother inherit the remainder after the full sister receives her share. Now, this is in the case where there is only one full sister. She will take her half, and anything that's remaining, that will be shared amongst the half siblings. Half siblings follow the same rule of male receiving share of two females. So here's two-thirds or two shares of the when we say that so the male has two shares and the daughter or the sister has two-thirds of a share. So they will follow the same sort of ruling that they don't take half. They don't take half. They take whatever is remaining or whatever has been left here. In this case, it is one-sixth. They would get one-sixth of the share. A deceased male or female leaving no ascendants or descendants, meaning they have no one no parents or grandparents and no sons or grandchildren. But they have a sibling, one full brother, then he will get the full estate. or remaining of the estate, what's left after allocated shares. And if there is only one full sister, she will get in half. So either the full estate or the remainder of the estate will go to the siblings. A deceased male or female leaving no ascendants or descendants. Okay. Just have a look at this point here. Or a full brother, sister, so they have no ascendants, no descendants, but have a full brother or a sister, and the maternal mom side brother or sister is alone inheriting will get a sixth. Okay, so if there is a maternal and the maternal brother or sister from the mother side um, is inheriting alone will get a sixth. Okay, so if this is in the case where a deceased male female has no ascendants or descendants, meaning there's no parents, grandparents, and there are no children or grandchildren, but there are a brother and sister, and the maternal brother sister is alone inheriting. If there is two or more maternal siblings, so from the mother's side, um, so this is in case where the mother has children, but they share the same mother, but they don't share the same father. Males and females both, and so if there is two or more maternal siblings from the mother's side, males or females both, and no son or sorry grandson by the son, and no father, or a paternal grandfather, then the half maternal brother and sister they share one third between them. Okay, they will share one third between them. But in a case, a deceased male or female having no ascendants or descendants, or full brother or sister, and the maternal brother and sister is alone inheriting, they will get the sixth. So these are the half siblings or the step siblings of anybody who's passed away. So there are no full siblings in this case. Okay, they're only on the mother's side. Then if they are inheriting alone, they get a sixth. Okay, and if there are two or more maternal siblings, then they will share or they will get a third. Agnat relatives by themselves, male. So who are, we talked about their relatives from the male line, so they go in order. So the son, grandson, and so forth in a descending lineage, then the father, paternal grandfather, and so forth in an ascending lineage, meaning those who come before, above, then the full brother, paternal half brother, so forth. So if there's full brother, he inherits before the half brother can inherit if there's anything left over. Father's full brothers, they take precedence if the person dying doesn't have any children of their own. Father's paternal half brother will step in if there is no full brother, and so forth in ascending order. Son of the full and half paternal uncle, meaning the cousin, uh, and so forth. And so the freed slave. So who is freeing the slave? The master here is talking about the master. Agnat relatives, part of the relatives is one or more daughters or sons of the deceased. And these are part of the relatives. So these are females. Okay. So first we looked at the males. Now we're looking at the females. So this is a same sort of format, but it's a daughter son through the son or the daughters or the sons of the deceased. Daughter of the deceased son, meaning granddaughter. So they, again from the male line. So they have to be from the male line and inheriting along with her brother or a paternal cousin. One or more full sister along with one or more full brother, one or more paternal half sister with one or more paternal full brother. Those who do not inherit are paternal nieces, paternal aunts, and paternal cousin sisters. And these will not be the ones who are inheriting, whereas the paternal cousin brother can if there are no brothers standing in place. These are Agnat relatives via other relatives, so one or more full sister of the deceased, along with one or more daughters of the deceased. So the sister and the daughters, or granddaughters of the deceased from the son line, one or more paternal half sister of the deceased, along with one or more daughters of the deceased, or with one or more granddaughters of the deceased through the son. So they become Agnite because they are related through the male line, and they will inherit in order, so they don't necessarily inherit all together. We know that the Prophet ﷺ has told us in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, give the shares of inheritance as prescribed in the Quran to those who are entitled to receive them. Then whatever remains should be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. So this is why it's very important to establish who are the relatives through the male line. However, if nothing remains after the legal heirs take the prescribed shares, so the prescribed shares are in the Quran, they must be given, and anything that's extra that remains can be given to the agnate relatives, okay? Um, which is all these relatives, they can inherit, okay? So granddaughter can inherit if there are no other daughters or other children, sons. Um, but they don't get anything if there is a legal heir and all the shares have been distributed. Divorced women are not entitled to inheritance unless they are in their waiting period. A divorced woman can inherit if husband has divorced her deliberately with the intention that he wants to disinherit her from his wealth. So he divorces her on his deathbed so that he could deprive her of the laws of inheritance, and that's his intention. Um, then that would not stand and she would be able to inherit according to scholars. Non-Muslims, they cannot inherit from Muslims and vice versa. Scholars have permitted it only if living under Muslim rule. However, Muslims can bequeath to non-Muslim relatives as a third of the property upon their death, and you cannot give more than a third. So you can receive a third, and you can also give a third of your property to your non-Muslim relatives, but it cannot exceed the third, and that's a bequest or bequest. Sorry, bequeathing it. And bequests should be fulfilled before the inheritors take their share. If somebody wants to, if they are on their deathbed, they can also give charity up to a third of their property. But obviously, during your life, you can give as much as you want as gifts away, as long as you don't do it with the intention of disinheriting someone. And that's the end of the basic inheritance laws. Inshallah, I hope you have a clearer idea of who the legal heirs are and how they will inherit the estate. For a detailed discussion, you can refer to our level 3 course. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.